All right. Well, this is Sunshine here. I'm at the 20. I'm here at the 12th annual Emerald Cup in Santa Rosa at the fairgrounds, and I have with me Adam Dunn. Welcome.
Thank you very much. It's actually my first Emerald Cup.
Oh yeah.
I've had so many other cups, and this is one of the elusive ones for me. And last couple of years, I've been real jealous, so I took the opportunity to make sure I made it this year.
You've been in the biz for a long time, and you're seeing here this year, especially at the Emerald Cup, people who are just getting their feet wet, just getting into the biz. How long you been in this business for?
I'm getting on like 22nd year, I think it is, now 23 years.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's awesome to see because there's also the ages too. Because when I started, I was about 22, living in Amsterdam. I moved there when I was 19. And then after being there for a few years, I decided to start my own company, and that was what we called the CIA. And that was kind of like a counterculture meeting spot, so it had a very cool vibe. And just coincidentally enough, like people like Rob Clark, who's speaking now, he would hang out at the spot, and we had all these people that were just, and he even quoted that as being the epicenter of the cannabis universe at that moment in time, and that was because it was 93 Amsterdam, pretty much the freest place, for good quality cannabis that actually was, not indigenous or something. And so people just came from far and wide. And then the cool part about that spot was that we had all these interesting people that came through. And a lot of times I thought I was introducing people, but I wasn't. I was just reintroducing them to each other after 20 years or something. And so we made a lot of really great connections.
Wow, yeah, for sure. And then you also started a seed company shortly after that?
Yeah, we did TH Seeds in 95. So we basically started in 93, sold other people's hemp clothing and other people's seeds, and then just kind of realized, I think we could do this a little, I wouldn't say better, but we could definitely had our own twist on it, So instead of worrying about what other people thought was fashionable or what other people thought was the cannabis that they wanted, we were like, no, I think we have a good idea what we like, So.
Nice.
So we introduced, actually the friend of mine who's also here is the guy who, helped me develop Sage and brought the seeds over from California originally to Amsterdam. So we got to select some good Central Californian hazes and things that hadn't really been seen there as far as those flavor terp profiles, and then to see that they've sustained over 20 plus years and they're still viable. It's awesome, It's like it's nice to be. It's good to be involved.
It's kind of interesting how these seeds have actually spread out, going from say California over into Europe, and then we had European strains now coming here.
Sure. No, it's been. I mean, it's hard to find a place where there's really not been touched by either Dutch genetics, which are not really Dutch genetics, but are, genetics that have just been coded. Our motto was to protect genetics and serve mankind, because our idea was that a lot of these things were going to be lost, and as you see, it happens. Even your favorite grower always had a strain that they thought they were going to keep forever, but somehow, powers that be, they lost it along the way. And so preserving those flavors and also just having a connection to it. Like a lot of times people are, a kid who's 20 plus, 22 years old right now has never smoked a Colombian or a good like Oaxacan or a certain type, unless he's got Mexican background or something, and maybe his grandfather, so for a lot of these people just don't know. They have, all they're doing is reworking diesels and OGs and things, and those, it's not really getting you out of that spectrum, And
yeah, for sure. Right.
So I notice it here too. I've got the top 50. I've been running through those.
Oh, and, you have now.
Yeah. Got to be involved.
What are your thoughts about the quality of what you're seeing?
I'm seeing about 6 different types. I've kind of narrowed it down to like the funky, the fruity, the diesely, the definite OG headband type, cookies. There's I can kind of spot what I think is what, and it seems like the ones that work the best are like the Durban-based ones. That seems like that they have that
spice,
quality that seems to pass on, because it's also, of course, it's all outdoor, organic, so it's really expressing about, hopefully as much as it can, natural expressions. It's not so much who grew it indoors with what fertilizer, what I mean?
Exactly.
So you are seeing like the things that work, I think it's also where, Blue Dream worked really well here because it grew so well. It wasn't necessarily my favorite weed to smoke, and as a consumer, a lot of people would not go for that because they'd all be stuck on the OGs, but But from a grower's point of view, when you look at it growing, you're like, I wouldn't want to grow that OG next to that. Because
Yeah,
that plant is a beautiful plant to grow. So
yeah, and it's a good staple too. It'll pull
Right.
through crop to crop.
and it will cure better.
For
Which
sure.
is a lot of the times so I think I've seen a few that I've been real surprised that made it in the top 50 just because of the lack of love it seemed like that went into it. There was a few that I was like, oof, how did that even get in there? Because it was not trimmed either at all, maybe like somehow they just hoped it was going to trim itself. But a few standouts, there's been a few. I mean, I have only gone through less than half, so I got work ahead of me.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice. And you also have you do consulting, correct?
Yeah, I have a company called MedCana that I work with, which we consult on mostly emerging markets. I mean, Colorado's luckily, they've had the best sort of structure maybe legally up to a point, you know what I mean? Maybe hopefully California's going to, improve it along the way. But in general, they've had because they have a constitutional amendment, it's not just a doctor's recommendation. So from the legal standpoint, I think Colorado's always been a good kind of safe haven in a way. But in the future, hopefully it'll all just, pan out where people realize that all their fears are a little bit
Yeah.
unnecessary.
And you've also traveled and spent several years just in and out of the Emerald Triangle. You've seen it over a few decades now.
Yeah.
And what are your thoughts when now we have a regulatory framework for commercial marijuana? What are your thoughts about what's the future for the Emerald Triangle?
I think from an outsider looking in, I think first of all, I think you guys are lucky that you are here because you can't change your location. That's one thing you can't. It's very hard. I mean, you can, but only you personally can do that. Whereas, I've always thought California has they're lucky that they're, like people could say, people come to Amsterdam when I had my shop. Of course, everybody from California would, they had better weed. We understood that, but it was also location, And then it was like, well, show me the weed, well, it's back in California. So I'd be like, well, then it's not the best. The best weed is what you have in front of you at that given moment in time, and that's part of the beauty of being in the location. So I think if the people who embrace that, like open their doors, have more of a vineyard style mentality, it'll mature into that. People will drive from San Francisco, get their rent-a-car, drive to Redding, drive to here, drive to there, pick up, hopefully the people who are doing the best work can, be open to the public in the future, let's say, in an ideal world, let's say. But, and then of course it's the agricultural side of it all. I mean, California is the ag capital of America. So for reality point of view, we can't compete. So get your ducks in an order, and make sure that you can pass all of your internal. I mean, the hardest part is going to be the water issues and a few other things that are going to hold back maybe. But from a infrastructure point of view, I don't think we can really compete. So I think once it's federally accepted, if you live in Ohio, why would you want to smoke Ohio grown outdoor when you could have California grown outdoor?
Yeah,
You know what I mean? So
sure.
I kind of think that's going to be the future where it's once interstate commerce is set up, we're talking 10 years down the road possibly, but gearing up to that, luckily California has a huge market to build, to feed off itself.
For sure,
Where I am in Colorado, we have 5 million people, and they live far away from each other, so it's not as easy as like LA,
Have you thought about relocating to California?
Originally when I first came to America, I was kind of looking at California. I looked at Colorado. I looked at the East Coast a little bit, and obviously the East Coast didn't have the...
But you're from California.
No, I'm from New York originally.
Okay.
But I grew up kind of bi-coastal. I was in Big Sur, L.A., New York, kind of doing that triangle. My own triangle. That was my own version. But, I think for me the market was too big in California. That's why I kind of liked the ease of dealing with Colorado, because I lived in Amsterdam for so long, and there's only 600,000 people live in the center of Amsterdam, less than 1 million. So it's a tiny little village, So to go from that little village into like LA or NorCal or something, it's kind of like, nah, I think I'll leave that to the people that were there for the longest time.
Right on. Well, what are you looking forward to this weekend?
I'm just happy that there's so many breeders and so many growers, and people actually know why they're here in a sense, and for a lot of trading and a lot of just that kind of I love that part of it all, because a lot of cups, it's too much hype, and there's a lot of just like people with bags of stuff trying to load up as much free stuff as they can, and it's kind of like those aren't my people so much. My people are the ones that are like they got the jars with them, and they're showing each other what's going on, and we kind of, we feed off each other really.
For sure,
So-
for sure. Thank you for coming, being here today.
No problem, for sure.
Have a
Look
good
forward to
weekend.
it. Thanks.
Thank you.
Adam Dunn. Yep, TH Seeds and Medcana Consulting.
Oh
And
yeah, I forgot your radio.
Hoodlum and
Your radio show,
and
yeah.
a lot of things.
A lot of things. I know, I couldn't remember everything.
That's cool.
All right. Yeah, here we are live at the Emerald Cup. We got our stream up and running here, and we are in our press room.